Okay, it's been the 15-minute mark, and we're at the halfway mark on the boil. I'm removing the first hop addition and putting in the second. And this one will be in here for 15 minutes. And once 15 more minutes has gone by, we'll remove that one. We'll put in the third and last hop addition for the final 5 minutes of the boil, which is in homebrewers' language called the flame out. It's the end of the boil. And so we'll be back to show you that. Okay, we just added the third and last hop addition, and we're at the last 5 minutes of the boil. Once we have finished the boil, then what I'll be doing is I'll be putting the kettle into the sink full of cold ice water in order to start bringing the temperature down some before we pour it into the fermenter bucket. So once we've got it cooled down and we're ready to pour it into the fermenter bucket, we'll be back to show you that process. Okay, now we're going to pour the boiled wort into the fermenter bucket. I put it on the floor on a rug so I don't make a mess if it gets away from me. Alright, I managed to do that without embarrassing myself. Now, take it, put this up here so we can add the rest of the water, and you'll notice we've got a little temperature gauge here so that we'll know when it's the right temperature for pitching the yeast. Now, I also made some marks so we'll know when it's up to the level it needs to be. So, but before I do that, I've decided to try a little experiment here and add a bottle of Trader Joe's pure bourbon vanilla extract to the wort to hopefully give it a little vanilla flavoring. And this is the real stuff. This is not imitation. This is organic Madagascar extracted in bourbon. Oh yeah, vanilla. One bottle. There we go. And I'll stir that in. Then I need to add some cold water to it to bring the level up and to get the temperature down. We want to have at least 2-gallon batch. To the 2-gallon level, about there. Now you want to give it a vigorous stirring. There's one thing you want to do, aside from mixing the cold with the hot to even out the temperature, is you want to get some oxygen in there. to help the yeast out. So I'm going to be stirring this for a couple of minutes, and when we're done and we're ready to go on to the next step, we'll come back. Okay, well, we've got the wort in the bucket. We had a little trouble getting it cooled down enough to the right temperature range for pitching the yeast, which we haven't done yet. But we have got it down to the right temperature range, and the last thing that we needed to do before we pitched the yeast is we needed to take a specific gravity reading with this hydrometer and write that down so that we can compare that with the specific gravity reading that we get when the fermenting is done, and using those numbers we can calculate what the alcohol percentage of our finished homebrew will be. So using this hydrometer, our specific gravity reading here before fermenting is 1060, and once we have finished fermenting and we take the last reading, then I'll be able to tell you what our alcohol by volume turned out to be. So now all we've got to do is pitch the yeast and seal the lid on the bucket, and get our airlock filled with liquid, and then we'll put it in the bathtub in my hallway bathroom, and you'll see us again in about 2 weeks. Maybe a little longer. So okay, we have got the yeast pitched. We've got the bucket sealed with the airlock on it. You can see that we've got the liquid in the airlock. I used some of my sanitized water, the sanitizer. That way, if it gets sucked into it, it's not going to harm the beer. And all we have to do now is wait for the fermentation to start and wait for it to stop. And once it's done fermenting and it's ready to bottle, then we'll video that for the next part of this first time homebrew series, and you'll see how we bottle it. And then part 3 will be the actual taste test. So until part 2, this is Spec Ops 56 and my faithful brewer companion and beer drinking companion and all around faithful companion, John, saying so long and happy brewing.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.